Hey everybody, welcome back to We Live for Saturdays, joined here by Chris and McCoo. It is championship weekend. How we doing?
Woohoo! We made it, boys. Almost at the finish line.
Time has flown. Oh, but there's plenty of good football left, McCoo.
Hey, and we're starting
Well,
to
I
get
mean,
bowl
finish line of the regular
announcements.
season, I should say.
We're starting to get the Bahamas Bowl and all the fun traditional ones. I know we're all in the playoff mode right now, but can't
That's
forget
true.
those little guys.
Too many people have forgotten the little bowls. Like for so long, they dominated the landscape, and now all of a sudden there's 12 teams to play in the playoff, and everybody diverts all their attention. We got to remember the little guys who are gonna be the outside looking in, but still playing for something.
And we're going to, since you brought that up, I know we had a ton of fun last year with the bowl season preview. If anybody has any requests or suggestions on what they'd like us to joke around with or talk about, I guess, would that be our next episode, the bowl previews?
I think it has to be.
Yeah, probably. Mixed with an Army-Navy one, probably.
Yeah, so if anybody's got any suggestions or what they want to hear, shoot them our way. Message us on Instagram, whatever. It's gonna be fun.
Is it not the Barstool Arizona Bowl anymore?
No, it's the one presented by Snoop Dogg now.
Yeah, it's the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl.
Snoop Dogg's involved in too many things. He's going the Shaq business model right now, and he is signed up for every spokesman. It's like every other commercial has Snoop Dogg in it, which again, credit to him for parlaying that. He did the Olympics all summer, so he was everywhere, but he just hasn't taken a break.
Yeah, Shaq owns every Papa John's and like other franchise chain stores, but Snoop is putting his face on everything.
Whatever happened to his son? He played wideout for UCLA like 10 years ago or whatever it was.
Little dog?
Cordell Broadus.
He played like UCLA, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What's the opposite? What's a smaller version of Snoop?
Chihuahua.
Like 4. No, we had different interpretations.
Like sort of Sneak. Yeah,
he's huge.
Yeah.
Snoop just be like,
yeah, the
Rumble Cat.
All right,
we're off topic. Heck of a sort of a rivalry week, final week of regular season for most teams. We got to kick it off with the game, Michigan Ohio State. I don't think that was on anyone's radar.
No, not at all. I was down, enjoying Thanksgiving, ready for a Saturday of, following the scores and everything, and didn't have it on my bingo card that Penn State really had a chance to make the Big Ten championship. I don't think anyone saw that coming and I'd be curious to see if Michigan fans actually saw that. I know they were happy. I got a call from one or two of them, but that was truly shocking. You can get into a lot of the analytics of it, the Ryan Day collapse.
The analytics or the Ryan Day. That's pretty much
the Ryan Day. You can look at it both ways, and they're somewhat related. They kept bashing their head against the wall, running it between the tackles, not bouncing it outside, where they were a lot more efficient. Just the overall.
I can't believe that game happened. It's stunning to me.
It was unbelievable.
The only slight kind of, I guess, because again, we always love watching chaos first and foremost. We also love watching, Ohio State lose. But obviously, in years where Ohio State's the better team, we like watching Michigan lose. So I don't know. It's a very weird feeling. The only thing that kind of softens the blow is the fact that Ohio State's still very much in the playoff. And that game was certainly embarrassing for them and a huge kind of black mark again on Ryan Day's legacy. But if he goes out and wins the championship, kind of all is forgiven.
They still have the third best odds.
Well, 100%, yeah. I mean, they played disgusting that game, and they may have given the blueprint to every other team on how to slow them down. But, I mean, Will Howard, gross performance. Their defense did totally fine. They slowed down Michigan as well as anybody else has. They did the exact game plan they should have, but I don't know how you have that dynamic of an offense and get slowed down without Michigan's best defensive playmaker and offensive playmaker on the field. So I think everybody saw that game coming. I personally did. I thought Ohio State was going to win by 30 points.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, that's what happened.
And Michigan, how they put up points was eerily similar to how Penn State put up points against Ohio State. They both ended up with 13 points. And then also their only touchdown, ours was a pick six. There was an interception to the 1 yard line. So that was their source of touchdown. And then they threw a pick on the 1 yard line another time. So like it was the exact same game from an offense like on that side of the ball for both teams. But Ohio State, they have way too many weapons on the outside to just keep beating their head against a brick wall in the middle of the field every time. So
and Michigan's corner was out. You know, I mean, I drawn up. Was it Johnson?
Yeah, Will Johnson. Yeah,
he's like a guaranteed top 10, top 15 pick.
Unbelievable, truly a shocker.
Can you imagine that? I love that it was at Ohio State too, because if it was at Michigan, obviously the place is like burned into the ground in celebration. But Ohio State, I cannot imagine 100,000 people, expecting the biggest, finally comeuppance. No more Harbaugh. This is not the champion team. This is a team we could just beat into the ground, and then they absolutely slowly got kind of bled out. Mm-hmm. And that must be the saddest sight of all time.
And last thought I had on this game, and it kind of translates to a lot of what we saw. What were y'all thoughts on the fight and all of the fights? I mean, it was
every rivalry game had a fight.
Every rivalry game, if the away team won, somebody was either stealing a flag or planting a flag, and just all heck broke loose.
It shows the role of social media, I think, because to be fair, the biggest one was at noon, so everyone playing later was like, "Oh, that's crazy. We got to do it." And
let's get maced.
Some were more intense than others, but like, I don't know. If you're Florida planting your flag on Florida State, like their flags have been planted on their field all year, so it's not like a big thing to do it for them, but like. I'm glad you brought it up because this was like the weirdest year looking back, just like different trends that happened across the entire country. Like obviously the flag planting, that was big last week, but the early field stormings, that happened multiple times. The throwing trash on the field, that happened multiple times, that people are just seeing this happen and they're like, oh, let's just do the same thing. I don't remember that ever happening, but it obviously has this year. So we'll see if it continues.
I think I agree with most everything you just said. I think the Florida State's insane because like Florida State was one of the worst, if not the worst, Power 4 team in the entire country. There's no glory to, planting the flag or doing any sort of celebration there. Ohio State, Michigan is the most storied rivalry in the whole sport. So I think if you get the opportunity and you can, it's almost like a capture the flag moment. It's like if you could get to midfield with your giant flag, you plant that thing. It's up for the other team. It's up for the other team to prevent it. And if you can't stop it, then you can't. If you can stop it, it's like a continuation of the game. I think very much it shouldn't, but it's kind of like a field storming, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, when like too many teams were doing it, or they were doing it wrong, or they were doing it against a way inferior opponent. Like that's the thing. It's got to mean actually something. And to Michigan's credit, to knock off the number 2 team in the country. For the fourth year in a row, when you were a 20-point underdog, obviously, if you can get to the center of the field, plant that flag. Up to the other team to stop it.
Yeah,
you don't even get police or security involved, though. That's insane.
Right.
It's a continuation of the game, and when the moment calls for it, I say go for it. If it ever happens, when we're at a Penn State game and Ohio State comes in and plants their flag, which they probably could have over the years, I'm going to be very livid about it. But again, I think it kind of goes back to just, win the game and keep them away.
Spin zone, that's why we've never had a logo in midfield, because there's nothing to plant it on.
That could be it.
Do you think that's the reason?
Well, no.
I was gonna say, we're a storied enough program. We have a couple national
James Beaver thought of that a long time ago.
Yeah, let's be careful. Let's not give them any incentive to get out of here.
That's right. For when Twitter exists in 100 years.
Exactly.
and they will call it X.
Was that
Uh,
a Nate Bargatze reference?
No.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, the skits are great though.
Yeah.
I got you, Chris.
All right.
I feel like I skipped Friday and got to Saturday too fast. We have to talk about the game in Georgia on Friday night.
Was that in Georgia? Or sorry, was that on Friday?
That
Obviously
was in Georgia.
It was in
yes.
it was in North Carolina.
You know,
That was. I mean, if you want to talk about a reference, that was Michael Scott. Snip, snap, snip, snap.
exactly.
Back and forth.
Oh, it really was. Like, I am not a fan. I never was, especially since the Illinois 9 overtime game. But I hate the 2-point
hate it.
conversions. It's so dumb.
It's so fluky.
It's 100% fluky, and it was also, I believe, only came around after that like historic classic
Yeah.
A&M LSU game where it was like 73-70 or something, and they kept scoring. But like, if the teams are good enough to continue to score, you know, I want to say the whole impetus of making it to the 2-point conversions immediately is like, you know, player safety. Like, let's not get the guys to play for another 2 hours after the game's over. But still, like, you're still making them, you know, berate each other to get into the end zone. You're still making them run full speed plays. You're kind of extending it more by giving them such an easy access to the end zone rather than starting them back at the 25.
Right, and I don't know why people don't run more, but like the first run play was the one that won the game in the 8th overtime, and
Right.
you just got to get 2 yards, 3 yards, and that's all
Georgia
you need.
Tech, I mean, Haynes King, he was feeling it. He had a great game, but if he handed off on that jet sweep, you know, it was over. It was
I mean,
over.
there were a million chances for both sides
teams,
that
yeah.
should have won. I'll give it to Georgia. They find ways to win every single time, no matter how much everyone doesn't necessarily want them to or wants an upset. But
I was gonna say, I was getting real amped up for the for Georgia Tech to pull out the knockoff, and
100%.
a huge, you know, I think everybody was cheering for that. You always cheer for the underdog. You're never cheering for the big bad, you know, recent 2-time champion. So obviously you don't want the favorite to win, but they really kind of let them off the hook. Unfortunately, it was like 20-6 with less than 10 minutes to go. And granted, yeah, that's only 2 scores, and plenty of time. But I mean, they kind of had them right where they wanted, and to go to that many rounds of overtime and still come up short, that's kind of a gut shot for Georgia Tech, unfortunately.
And it stinks, like you were saying, for, you know, a lot of the people in the playoff would have liked to see Georgia get that third loss because, I mean, if you look at the
100%.
potential bracket right now, they've got to be still at the top of your list of teams you don't want to play.
Right.
They were all season. When they played horribly, you still don't want to play them next week. When they played great, you don't want to play them next week. I mean, that's, again, the kind of key of Georgia. They have all the skill in the world. You know, sometimes you can catch them in a soft spot or, you know, at an off day. But I think now the playoffs coming around, and yeah, they're pretty much locked in, correct? I mean, going to
They are now.
SEC
Yeah.
Yeah, they are now. Because they're not going to, they're not in, oh no.
No, they
are
play.
in the
They play
championship.
Texas.
They play Texas. So.
Yes.
But they're locked in, I think. So.
But yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech, they got something going there. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in a conference championship within 3 years.
I enjoyed watching them this year. They're a very competitive team.
The ball.
It's a painful loss, but that did nothing but increase their stock. Like if I'm a transfer, or if I'm like someone from Georgia that might not be getting recruited by Georgia, heck yeah, I'm going to Georgia Tech.
Right.
So
it's a very good point, though. I couldn't agree more.
Alrighty, well, we got the Georgia Tech one. We had Michigan, South Carolina, Clemson. That was a good one. Slugfest.
South Carolina is scary. I was so wrong on them going into the year. I took their under on the season win total, and
what was it?
It was 5.5.
Okay, so you weren't the only one wrong. Vegas was wrong, man.
Yeah, right.
True.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of the, you know, the Twitter talkers X. They're showing the case. A lot of people feel sorry for South Carolina. You know, I think if you look back at that LSU game, especially, they got jobbed there by the refs. You know, that kind of thing.
3-point loss, yeah, at home.
They could easily be in, and I think they're gonna come up just short.
They had
wow,
one.
what a team!
They legit. I'm just looking at their whole schedule right now. They had one bad game, and that was the Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They must have been missing somebody, or like a bad week or something. But they lost 27-3. Just couldn't get the offense going. But they lost the next week to Bama by 2, which is unfortunate. That and the LSU game, which was by 3 points, as we just said. That's what's kind of keeping them out. But probably the hottest team in all of college football right now, if you look at it objectively.
Without a doubt. And I mean,
even the games they're supposed to be losing, they go on an absolutely torching run at the end.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
That's another team you want to
the
buy
Mizzou
stock
game
in.
and Clemson game right now that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They needed huge fourth quarter plays, and they got them, and they delivered.
Right. They blew out A&M middle of the year. Just plenty of. We were talking this morning as far as possible more expansion of the playoff and just like teams getting in or being left out. I do feel for Ole Miss and South Carolina this year because they're so close. Like there were 2 games that were easily easily going the other way, and they would be a top 4 seed, 5 seed in this game.
I think I feel way worse for South Carolina because of how good they are right now.
Right. Yeah, Ole Miss is sort of limping right now.
Trying to slug through that Mississippi State game. They won by like 12, but they should have won by 40. And they had exactly that same Georgia Tech game versus Florida, but Florida ended up with the win there. They kept turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, you shoot yourself in the foot enough times, and you complain you can't walk anymore. That's kind of weird.
Right.
And on the flip side, Dabo, how they can still get in. They can still get in if they beat SMU, right?
Well, yeah.
100% they're in if they beat SMU. There's talk about them possibly making. I guess if they lose, they have no shot.
All-time quote by I almost said Dino Babers, but he's not there anymore. Whoever the Syracuse coach is.
Oh yeah.
Brian Brown, maybe?
He was like, Dabo, I got you in, man.
Well,
can we bring that up? Can we bring up the Syracuse-Miami game?
We certainly can.
And just a quick joke about Dabo, though, because as of a lot of Spotify users know today, the Wrapped got released today, and Dabo it's often the butt of a lot of jokes. And I just one of the tweets or the X posts that I saw today that I just was cracking up at was Dabo tweeted, Spotify Wrapped? No, I'm wrapped in the love of Christ or something like that. That was too funny. Anyway,
that doesn't stop giving.
Syracuse, what a game.
Miami, they don't have defense.
No.
Who was the team last year that we just kept laughing at? They could keep up with anybody, but they kept scoring.
I think it was LSU, maybe.
USC.
Yes.
Or USC.
Yeah.
USC.
Overs every year, remember? For every game. Yes, 100% USC. And Miami, I wish I put it together before week 15. But Miami, I'm curious how many games hit the over for them because this game, I think 90 total points, 80 total points.
I will look right now.
And yeah, a very much a constant battle. They kind of commanded the game for a little bit, but they let Syracuse hang around. And the most beautiful piece of college football, just karma and kismet all coming together. Kyle McCord going off almost 400 yards, I think 3 touchdowns. And again, kept pace with Miami, who is one of the better offensive teams all year long. Obviously, their defense has some questions, but Syracuse is 9-3, so very respectable. And Kyle McCord, who Ohio State pretty much kicked off their program and said, go find a job elsewhere because we're going to upgrade majorly with Will Howard, scored 10 points against Michigan, who was 6-5. So I think it's just a beautiful little moment of like, yep, that's kind of what you get for trying to, make everything go all your way, is a little bit of comeuppance for them.
Yeah, Miami went 9-3 on the over this year.
That's huge.
Oh, there was only one team that was 10-2 on the over. That was Ball State.
Ball State fired their coach.
Well, they flew over the total by an average of 12 points a game.
Wow,
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, they just hired.
I did think they would be like super,
coach.
super good when they gave us a battle, and then they gave A&M a battle like the next week.
Or that's Bowling Green.
That was Bowling Green.
Who am I? Who'd you just say?
Ball State,
All State.
My bad. Yes.
but still.
Come on.
I'm having to have a drink.
Notre Dame. They took care of USC.
Also, a little fun game for a while.
Yeah, that was a shootout. That could have been a. USC might have something there in that quarterback. He was slinging it around, and then it was just 2 pick sixes or 2 late picks that really caused the difference, and that was the main thing. But I think I saw a stat that this is Lincoln Riley's first season without 7 wins or 8 wins or something, ending 6-6 this year. But fun fact, UCF reached out to him for the head coaching job. And they're like, but I don't see why he would ever do that.
They lost their coach Gus Malzahn to be the OC. Where did he go?
State.
At Florida State. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Which I'm sure was a highly sought after position.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No,
dollar signs, but
it's so weird though, because I feel like obviously, with our Penn State colored glasses, the USC game was a monumental win, and we were flying high and being like, oh my God, we knocked off USC at home in overtime. And they never really got right after that game.
No. But it was monumental.
They were like 3-1 or 3-0, or no, they definitely had a loss because they lost to Minnesota, and that I think that's probably what knocked them off. But they just never really recovered all season long.
I mean, we'd be out of the playoff. We'd be out of everything if we lost that one, probably.
1,000%, yeah.
Maybe even sneaking in at the end, but who knows? Alrighty. And then
Iron Bowl, obviously.
Iron Bowl was kind of a snoozer.
Absolute snoozer. Probably the least notable one in their storied history. 28-14. Milroe kind of got back on his feet going a little bit, so good to see him not throw the game away like he's been doing against Oklahoma. But,
and another snoozer, Texas versus Texas A&M. That was
17-7, I think.
Yeah,
that
was a rough
really
one.
anticipated. Texas A&M saved up all of the fireworks in Texas, and that was the highlight of their game.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, granted, we've been to some big and just hype games at Beaver Stadium, but seeing it pregame, they showed the full pregame, the full fight song, the amount of just Texas hate in the fight song. They showed the lyrics on the bottom, cutting Bevo's horn off and all this kind of stuff, and it was just like, man, this is awesome.
You guys need to chill.
I was gonna say, I was laughing at it a little bit when they posted that. They're like, all this hype just to win and not even score an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, we just did exactly that versus Ohio State.
100%.
So I can't judge it all. However, incredible environment, and also the fact that this was their first matchup in 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And they used to hate each other. Like, imagine if Ohio State just disappeared off our schedule for a decade and a half, and they come back into our house. They're going to do the exact same thing. Hopefully, crowd-wise. I mean, not score-wise. But I don't know. Credit to Texas. They're obviously a very strong team, number 2 for a reason. So we'll see what shakes out in that Georgia rematch, because it's very tough to shake down, and they're going out all the way out to Atlanta, I think.
Alrighty. Well, we have 2 mailbag questions before we hop on into Week 15, or technically the conference championship week. First one is from Troy from Arizona, loyal listener here. We got kind of a shakeup in the bracket this past Sunday or Tuesday, yesterday, when they released it last night. Out of the bracket, what is one team that you predict to not make the playoff? So I will share the screen right here.
I need to share the screen now, or else I'm going to start clicking around.
Okay.
Oregon,
right.
they're going to lose so badly to us. They're going to get X from everything.
So, man, I don't want to take the easy one here, but I think Iowa State beats Arizona State.
I wanted to mention quickly, I just not to reverse it all, of course, here, but speaking of the Kyle McCord, and Ohio State falling flat, Will Howard went to Ohio State, and Kansas State fell super flat. Couldn't pull off the win over the fighting coach and Andes that we love and adore from Iowa State.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm Oh,
And
you go.
I'm kind of bummed because the Big 12, I did some of our silly conference championship parlays. Iowa State, I had it in one or two of those at plus 1,000 to win the Big 12, but of course I had a few others, and it's not going to matter, or I'd be really hype about this game.
No, 100%. I think they're both very, very competitive teams. I think they're both kind of flying high at the right time. I think Arizona State's a little bit hotter because they just haven't slowed down since like week 4 or 5 when their last loss was. Like Iowa State's had some closer battles, including last week. So I think all the momentum's going Arizona State, which is why they're obviously predicted to make the playoff. But if Iowa State obviously wins that game, they're clearly in, and they are going to have a matchup nightmare for somebody.
And just a quick comment on, what we love so much about college football in general. The Big 12, going into the year, we knew it was going to be a crapshoot. Anybody could win. Arizona State, who ended the regular season first place, was projected at the start of the season 16th out of 16 teams in the Big 12, and they just flipped the conference on its head. Utah and Oklahoma State were at the bottom of the barrel. It was just crazy to see. But yeah, I think my pick is Arizona State's going to lose. I'm hopping in with Iowa State there.
I like that. I'm going to go. I think that this sounds insane because he's second, if not fringe first, for the Heisman vote. But if UNLV can contain Ashton Genty, UNLV will win the Mountain West. Obviously, they have to win the game, not only just contain them, but win the game outright. They will drop Boise State to 10-2. UNLV will immediately, obviously, vault over them in the polls, and I think that means they're in the playoff. I haven't heard the initials UNLV mentioned in playoff or even football conversation for the last month. And again, I'm living here in Boston. I'm not watching Mountain West TV all the time.
Why?
But credit to them for putting together a heck of a season. And yeah, I'm very curious. Like, I loved watching Genty play all year. I think Boise deserves to be in the spot they're in. It's weird to see him in the 4 seed because of obviously the conference alignments and everything. But don't sleep on UNLV. That's going to be a very close game, and I would not be surprised at all if they pull that off. And if they do, where are they going to end up? Do they get immediately just slotted to 12? Do they get a little bit of a higher boost over a team that didn't play a postseason game like I don't know, not Notre Dame, that's too high, but like an Alabama or a Tennessee? I don't know. It's very curious.
I 100% agree. I think they can beat Boise as well. I hate it, but I think they can beat Boise.
Right. Again, there's no discredit to Boise. I think more UNLV's just been perfectly under the radar all year long and just consistently kind of steamrolling opponents. So,
especially after all the Sluka mess earlier in the year too.
I was about to say, who was that guy that he was like, "I'm going to transfer away. You guys will be nothing."
Yeah. I mean, that first matchup between them was great.
Of course.
Definitely. I'm going to do a little hot take here. SMU, I'm going to predict that they're not going to make it.
That will be anarchy.
I think it'll be anarchy.
They lose to Clemson and go all the way out.
I think they lose by 3 touchdowns to Clemson, and they lose granted, I don't necessarily want to predict that, but if that did happen, I think that would knock them out.
Well, I think that begs the question, and we texted about this earlier in the day. What's the point of these conference championships then? Because Rhett Lashlee himself said, if SMU, the whole team got sick and just decided not to play this weekend, they'd be in because they are first in the ACC. Look at their positioning. This can only hurt them. Obviously, they get an ACC championship. That's great, but this can only hurt them in the whole realm of the college football playoff. They have nothing to gain.
Well, I guess if that's the case, then let's say SMU's locked in no matter what, and Clemson wins. Now that puts 2 ACC teams in here. That would knock out Bama in this case, or even Indiana is not necessarily safe.
I wanted to bring up a little bit of a chaotic moment if America's darling from a couple months ago,
baby.
Indiana, the Hoosier State would alight with flames if they were to be knocked out for no fault of their own. They went 11-1. They battled. They had a phenomenal season. But I very much believe in the committee and the media and every single bias possible towards get as many of these high-profile teams in, and an
Kurt
SMU
Signetti
or an
will freak
Indiana
out.
or even like a Boise. Obviously, again, Boise or whoever wins that conference has to be in it. But like some of these lower name recognition teams are first on the chopping block, and I would not be surprised if Lane Kiffin's constant bickering and badgering aligns with getting him somehow sneaking in if all hell breaks loose.
I have found a new Twitter account, and
Congrats.
Or Bud
Care to share?
no, it's here. Let me see.
X.
All right, this guy's account is
Oh, I love it already.
CFP Resume Rankings, and he is
What do they do?
a professional data scientist backed by
Hey,
high level data.
Shoot him a
And-
follow. Shoot him a follow real quick.
You're
I
following
love
one
the
person
trends
right
on the. I love the trends on the side here.
I
By
was
the way.
gonna say
Talk to him.
golf and Harry Styles. Those are just Sam's trends.
But ultimately what he does is he looks at each team's resume, puts like a game value to all of them, and creates like a raw resume versus like a strength rating of the team, all this type of stuff. And it comes into this chart here where you want to be on the bottom left. So
I was going to say top right isn't good.
he basically put a dotted line
I had to
here.
look for a while. I was like, why is Kent State off the map?
So yeah, composite team strength and then resume. So basically, like strength of schedule and stuff. I would assume is on the.
This dude needs to flip his axes, though. These are insane. You can't be
100%.
doing this. Yeah.
But basically, he's saying that Indiana and Tennessee are on their way to the playoff without a worthy resume, and then South Carolina should probably be in based on that dotted line, and then same with Ole Miss. So
look at how far Clemson is outside of the realm of
Yeah.
possibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Makes
look
you
how
think.
high Michigan is.
I love
Where
these
are
data
you?
nerds.
oh wow, yeah,
Yeah, for what their record is, look how high they are.
yeah.
This guy has no life. I love it.
I
He
just love
needs
how
to.
you can create anything with numbers, and you can just make up stats. You can make up metrics. It's insane to me.
100%.
But also, the idea just occurred to me. I think the committee and the playoff and
You're just
everything
gonna
like
hire
that,
this guy.
yeah, right.
They
But it's
should.
literally designed to cause as much, instigated chaos and conversation, and make teams battle it out. The fact that Lane Kiffin and the athletic directors at all these different schools, I think like SMU and Iowa State, were battling out on Twitter today.
Mm-hmm.
That's like so many people are getting more and more vocal because they think they have so much more of a shot. When it was just the
Mhm.
top two, you knew immediately if you had a shot.
100%.
Top four, if you're number 10, you're like, okay, it wasn't even close. Now that it's 12, the person in 20th or the team in 20th is like, hey, if one more thing went our way on like September 15th,
Right.
we could be right there. So I think they like the constant bickering and badgering and the media attention and everything that just comes with it. So whether it be three idiots like you guys and me, or just like the national media and fancy podcasts and fancy studio shows doing all crazy stuff, they want the attention. They want, and like if it was a cut and dry, here are the top 12, the 13th team was the worst team ever, it's not as fun.
We're a big media outlet, okay?
Of course, yes.
Just come on.
No, that's fair. Yes, I said you two are the idiots. I'm the big media. Size.
Okay, that backfired. Anyway, yeah, it should be interesting though. I mean, there's always going to be someone that feels left out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, if we expand it to 16 teams, or
Look
I mean,
at college
I think
basketball.
that's the absolute maximum you can do in football. I was saying to Sam, mentioned it a minute ago, but like how we were talking, like if you lock in both conference champions, and some team sneaks in there at 8-4 because they went undefeated in the conference, and if you're locking in both champions, then you need to be a 16 team because you can't take up 8 out of 12 openings with just the big four conference champions.
Right. Well,
Good
cool.
stuff.
Anything else before we hop on into week 15?
What was our other listener question?
Oh, yeah. Let me see. From Rachel. Shout out, Rachel. We have... Who is more likely to win in a dance-off? The Nittany Lion or Puddles?
First of all, great question.
Yep.
Tremendous ask.
I don't know. I don't want to say my answer, but I think Puddles can get the people going.
I was gonna say if it's a crowd of just regular folks all circled around a dance off like I picture in a movie, Puddles is winning that 10 times out of 10. if we're talking like a Olympic, what did they do this past summer?
Breaking.
Yeah, breakdancing.
Breaking.
I'd give the money.
It's called breaking.
I'd give the money on the Lion because I think he's a little bit more dexterous with his mascot attire.
Good use of the word mascot.
Well, you.
And
I think Puddles is a little bit chubbier.
He definitely isn't as mobile if he needs to break. I've met the Lion one time, the actual human within the Lion, and
there's a human in there.
Oh, sorry. Well, he was a gymnast in extremely good shape. I'm sure Puddles...
I literally think all mascots, unless you're, at a, D3 program that doesn't really have much of a fanhood.
I think Puddles is just someone like you or me. I think Puddles is just this guy's like, hey, let's have a good time.
I thought Puddles was one of the guys doing like the push-ups like for every touchdown scored like back in the day. He was one of like the OG mascots that was like a viral sensation.
Cosmo, the BYU Cougar.
I was gonna say that's yeah.
Cosmo.
He backflipped over a car the other day.
And Puddles always has the bling. He likes to ruffle feathers, no pun intended. And
the fact you just said the sentence Puddles always has the bling.
Am I wrong?
Sam, you got any graphs or charts for us on the mascot dance?
I am trying to find some good breaking examples, but I don't think he has. I really don't think he has any moves. I think Penn State would win this one.
Well, but see a dance competition. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
this is what he's doing.
Stadium pulse. If we want the stadium pulse, he'll get it going. But if you want to just be impressive, the Nittany Lion is better. What is he doing?
These are terrible moves.
Yeah, but he's just so likable too.
All right.
I don't know. Good question.
All right, on to conference championships.
It is time.
First one is, I assume, based on day, the Tulane one, right? Is that?
Well, I was going to say, let's give a quick little, mention that, all due respect to Sunbelt, the MAC, and Conference USA, there's not enough. We would just dedicate too much time. We need to focus more on the dance competitions, everything. So we're not going to get into those during games.
No, and yeah, I agree with that move. I think one thing that I will say I'm blown away by, and they've already fired their coach, but who would have thought Liberty would not be in their conference championship? Like that was the conversation, and Caden Salter was already in the portal.
1,600 to make their conference or to win the whole conference. That Kennesaw State game had some ramifications.
I had them in a few of those silly parlays. I'm really glad it didn't. That was not the only one that busted for those.
Fair. But no, Louisiana Marshall in the Sun Belt, Miami, Ohio versus Ohio in the MAC. And Jacksonville State. Did you guys know Jacksonville State is not in Florida?
Yeah,
like Alabama or something.
Right? Alabama.
That's exactly right. You guys knew that. Good job.
Yeah, that's why we're the two idiots.
I was going to say, I'm the idiot. I just figured that out today.
That's right.
Whoops. Anyway,
all right,
we're playing Western Kentucky. We don't know anything about those games. Good luck to all teams.
All right, we got Tulane and Army. Is this neutral field? Do we know that? Mitchie Stadium?
West Point.
Oh, it's in West Point. Okay. 27 degrees. Tulane might be a little chilly up there. let's see what the numbers are. -5 for Tulane, 45.5 is the total. What are we thinking here? What do we see happening? Tulane's coming off the loss against Memphis last week. I think they were sort of looking ahead a little bit.
I couldn't agree more. I think I may have mentioned it on the last episode, I want to say. But I feel like they were kind of like the point I was making about UNLV. Like, they kind of have a path if they take care of business, and they could not take care of business. They lost by 10 to Memphis. Credit to
TCB.
Memphis. I think that they played a way better game and just, kind of had control over it. Army's kind of... No, I'm just going to take Army. I'm going to take Army plus the points. It's a home game. It's cold, as you said, Sammy. Tulane, again, a little bit weary off that loss that pretty much knocked them out of any sort of good contention. I think Army has been a very, very strong team all season long. They got a little beaten up in that Notre Dame game, but Notre Dame's legitimately a top 5 team. So, I don't know. I'm taking Army in the points. That seems very cut and dry to me. Maybe the wrong move, but let's see what happens.
I'm with you. I
Thanks, Phil.
I think my only little caveat to that would be, I think Army, particularly in the first half, will keep this close.
Sammy's our guy for first
Sam
half.
Hoppin, I saw he just sat forward in his chair.
Yo.
What's the first half spread? I think they're gonna keep it slow, obviously, with Army. I think it's gonna be lower scoring. I know this has it going over the total here. What Sam's got sharing here, I think it's gonna be a little lower. Army home game, cold weather. I think Tulane. They may make some adjustments. They may sort of wake up after the hangover from the Memphis loss, but I think Army keeps it close, especially early.
Am I reading it correctly that Tulane is awful at offensive row and Army is bad at defensive row?
Both bad offense.
And what is row?
Rush rate over expected. So no wonder Army is last because everyone always expects them to run.
Oh, well, okay. These stats don't make
Bud
any
Davis
sense.
is like, whoa!
These stats aren't fair. You can't put Army dead
What do you mean
last.
expected? Do you mean
Yeah.
expected? I don't. First of all, Rowe will not catch on.
They're expecting
Secondly,
it because of the name on the jersey. That's not fair.
It's basically like if it's like 3rd and 9, that's expecting to pass. So in that case, Army would be running on that stat.
I'm about strictly negative row teams.
like Scooby Doo.
Exactly.
Ruh-roh.
That's
Ruh-roh. First half is +2.5.
+2.5. All right, sure.
Army getting 2.5, I assume.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect bet right there.
Yep. Perfect. God
Cannot
bless
lose.
America.
You could even do +0.5. That way, if it's tied at half, because they're not going to be down 2.
Let's not give away points here, Sam. If they're going to give us points, we're going to take the point.
Yeah, I'm with you though. I think at home people will be kind of that'll be a hype environment. I don't know. I wonder what the last time a military academy hosted a conference championship.
Well, considering they haven't been in conferences a long time, probably. I don't know.
Hey.
Probably.
That's a great pull from both of you. You both have
That's true.
I was like,
I'm not an idiot.
yeah, I was like, no, probably
Row.
been forever. And then Chris was like, yeah, well, they haven't been in conferences.
Well, I didn't mean for that to sound smart. I was just literally processing through it in my head. Anyway.
That should be the tagline of our entire podcast. I didn't mean for this to sound smart, but
Row.
Row.
All right. Well, next one is UNLV traveling to the blue field of Boise.
I love this game.
I'm super excited for this
Is
one.
this-
It'll be a lot of fun.
It's at Boise. It's on the blue turf.
I believe
It is.
so.
I
It is
hope-
at Boise. I double
Love
checked this
that.
morning.
Love
Okay.
that.
So Boise is -4. I think it's the highest total out of all the Power 4 or 5 games.
A little surprising, but I'm happy to see it.
57.5. Chris, what are we liking here? What are we thinking?
Well, we mentioned it a little earlier. I think UNLV keeps this close. I'm not sure exactly, to what extent. I don't see them blowing them out, obviously, especially with Boise at home. Obviously, I think it'd be a little easier on a neutral site field. Boise has already beat them at UNLV's place already, but I think they're going to keep it close. I also think it's going to be kind of I don't think points are going to be flying around quite as much as we saw early on. I would lean under on this number,
Because I
57
just
and a
pulled
half.
up their last matchup on wasn't very long ago. It was back on October 25th, so a little over a
Friday
month.
night. It was great.
Yeah, and a 29-24 Boise victory. But
Oh,
Boise
that's
scored
less than I
last,
thought.
so they were actually losing going into the fourth quarter. Obviously, it was Ashton Genty, having a pretty good game, but not he went 33 carries for 128 yards. So it sounds like UNLV contained him pretty well. And yeah, it's just I think this is just a very evenly matched game, and I think UNLV is a quietly awesome team, and I think having another shot at them. Granted, this game that Boise State won was at home for UNLV. They're now going up to Boise. I'm very intrigued. I'm just gonna follow my gut and take the points with the Rebels.
I agree. There's some interesting stats here for promoting UNLV, promoting that pick. UNLV is number 1 in the country in net field position. That's always a positive if you're winning the field position battle. And then our best bud Eckel, they're moving the ball consistently on the offensive side. So I think UNLV keeps it close. I'm looking what the price is for both teams to score like 20. I could see this just being like a 24-21 type game, 28-24, that kind of vibe.
Like
I
last
gotcha.
time.
I mean, yeah, it matches up perfectly to their first matchup,
Yep.
29-24.
Yep.
My guess would be both teams to score 20 is like minus 250, but it's such an interesting game. I love all these conference championship games. They're all
The best.
intriguing matchups. I feel like I got so tired of like the Ohio State versus Northwestern or Wisconsin or Iowa. And again, they were always the best team in the West, but and obviously the last couple of years were more Michigan dominated, but they were very repetitive and just nothing cool and exciting. Now, granted, it should very well have been Ohio State Oregon this week, but hey, I'm worried about switching out the cards there.
Absolutely. Well, we're breezing through. We got the ACC championship. This is the first neutral site game. Clemson, thanking their lucky stars that Miami lost to Syracuse last week. It's also weird because I was checking the scores and watching the Clemson game, and I'm like, they're losing. They're not going to make their conference championship. And then they weren't playing a conference team, and that game didn't necessarily matter. So it was kind of a weird way to come in and make this game. But SMU's just been sort of rolling the ponies all year. So excited for this one. This one is in Charlotte, so Clemson will most likely have some of the most of the home fans here.
Like 90% of it, yeah.
Yeah, spread is 2.5 towards SMU, so 2.5 point favorite are the ponies, and then 55.5 is the total. So a little higher scoring, but Maku, what do we like here?
Oh, I wish you didn't start with me. I've been bouncing it back and forth in my head this whole time.
Yeah.
I very much want to say SMU continues the hot run because they haven't lost since the BYU game in that was like week 3 or 4, I want to say. So early on in the season, been red hot ever since, and they haven't really had a close game, but they also haven't played, I want to say, quite the, again, they're in the same conference now, so it's hard to say, but I think they haven't had quite the battles and, road tests that Clemson has, but that glaring loss to Louisville for Clemson still just is very prominent in my memory, and I kind of see this game going almost the same way. So yeah, Clemson will have the home field advantage, but I very much, it just may be my heart speaking, and I'm kind of tired of Dabo and everything, but I very much would love to see SMU just come in and kind of kick them around a little bit.
I
Feel
don't
free to disagree because I was disagreeing with myself 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't really feel good about either of these teams, honestly. SMU, if you look at their schedule, other than the win at Louisville, they don't have anything really impressive to speak to. I remember that week 0, 29-24 comeback against Nevada. They've obviously improved a lot. Lost versus BYU, but we've talked about their easy schedule all year. I don't think they've got a whole lot. They're a very fun team. I'm happy for them. Clemson's obviously down. I don't know. I think this is just kind of gross. I was leaning initially over, but looking at some of the past games for Clemson, I just don't know how much. I don't have a good read on it, so I'm probably just going to stay away, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't go against Clemson in a championship game until they prove me wrong, I think is the way I'm going to think about it. I don't see them. I think if there's a blowout in this game, I think it's going to be Clemson blowing Southern Methodist out, but I could be totally wrong on that, and I wouldn't be upset either. So, I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see sort of what SMU has. I think this will be the first game where the entire nation is watching SMU for the first time all year. So should be pretty entertaining.
You know what? Great points all around. I'm switching my pick. Give me Clemson. No, but I like kind of what you said, Sam. I was genuinely thinking that the whole time. Like, obviously, a much superior coach team. All due respect to Rhett Lashley and everything, and they certainly deserve to be there and had an awesome season. But to your point, a little bit more of a home environment. A lot more kind of trials and tribulations over the last month for Clemson than SMU, and I think they're a little bit more of a hardened team for that. So I'm going to go back on everything I just said. My heart is saying I want SMU to win because that would be awesome for just college football in general, the whole conference realignment argument, the playoff argument, everything. But logistically, logically thinking it all through, I think Clemson, you're giving them points, maybe the right move. So my official pick would be Clemson.
I'm looking at something real quick. Let me see. Oh, well, I was going to sort of do a little nugget there. I love Phil Maffa as a back for Clemson. Yes. I could just see him running all over. He's a hard running back, but
great name too.
Great name. SMU has the 6th best rush defense in the country, better than Penn State's. So maybe they do slow them down a little bit. So we'll see. And then fun fact on the same stat, UNLV is 15th in the country. So we'll see if they hold down Genty.
They have in the past. 128 yards on 33 carries, not dynamic.
Yeah.
Let's see who the worst is real quick.
Kent State.
Yep.
I mean, it's a good guess.
That's fair.
8 yards a carry.
I'd love to see the stats. I don't need you to pull this up right now. This is just more of a thought from the top of my head. But Oklahoma State had one of the worst seasons I've ever seen.
They are 8th worst rush defense, 6 yards a carry.
Florida State. What was Florida State? Florida State, they just couldn't score. That was their biggest problem.
That was like kind of average or middling defense. I just think they couldn't score anything.
98th.
Right. Okay, so below average.
Low.
Yeah.
That's pretty low.
But no, Oklahoma State, I'm very disappointed. I saw Mike Gundy fired his both coordinators.
Saw that.
Today. If you need to fire both coordinators, you got to look yourself in the mirror, pal. They're only there because of
my
you.
fault.
Man, how about Cal, number 10? All right.
In rush defense?
Yeah.
OTTOGO.
SMU just crushed them.
Ought to go.
Well, yeah. What does that refer to?
They're running back Jaden Ott.
Yeah, Jaden Ott.
I don't know that.
It's a remix.
All right.
Chris, do you think you're related to Penn State legend Andrew Ott?
Andrew Ott, he didn't loan me a pencil. That was someone else. Never mind.
I also don't think they're related.
No, they're most certainly not.
Yeah. Anyway,
moving on. We have the Big 12, most open conference all year. Fitting that it's Iowa State versus Arizona State at the end. -2 points is Arizona State as the favorite. 49.5 is the total. This game is in Dallas, so it is a neutral zone, neutral site. Chris, I know we were talking about Iowa State at the top of the pod, but what do we like here?
Yeah, leaning Iowa State, the Fighting Andes. I think they just obviously Arizona State has kept it really going ever since they had those kicking troubles. I think it was against Cincinnati. But I like Iowa State here. Um, and yeah, I'm picking them.
I like that pick with my heart. I have no idea what to say logically here. I think that number, they're just slapping around 2s and 2.5s
100%.
and all over the place, which again, they're obviously going to be evenly matched teams that have made it this far and gotten to their conference championships. But it's kind of a lazy line, and I dislike it because it does not give me a strong feeling one way or the other. What I will say is I almost am really feeling that under, surprisingly. I think that Arizona State has been very flashy, and again, they've been, blowing some teams out. They've been playing very competitive games. They put up a lot of points here and there. I think Iowa State is very good at slowing anyone they play down, and obviously, you think of them as like the the antithesis of regular Iowa, or like I don't want to say but contemporary, let's say, a constituent. For obvious reasons, but they will definitely they play a similar brand in the fact that they're trying to slow a team down and play defense first and defense heavy and throw you off your game, throw you off your tempo. And I think they're going to be very good at that. I don't know if they can win the game. I think Arizona State definitely has the stronger offense overall. But I do kind of like that under. I want to say it's like a 27-20 kind of game going, just a little bit, a hair under there.
And it would be so much cooler if it was Cam Scatabo, but it's Scataboo apparently.
No, it's not. It's Bo. Yeah. Sorry, Cam, you're wrong.
I heard it on when
Mr. and Mrs. Scatabo.
Boo.
Yeah. Scatabo. I thought it was Scativo for a second, and I was like, Tebow.
But yeah, I can't go against the Fighting Andes. I feel like this is their time. This is time for them to make the playoff. So
Andy 100% will be invited back on the pod if they make the playoff.
Yes.
That is our promise. I am very terrified, though, if the current bracket projections hold.
Yep, we would play each other.
No.
Iowa State, Penn State game. That may make me internally combust.
I will say I will be well. So is it a given? Is it a given that if we lose to Oregon, we be the 5th seed? Is that kind of like assumed? Do we know?
I don't believe it should be assumed. I don't believe it is assumed. I think there's a lot of teams that have an angle at the 5 seed.
Okay.
I don't know the exact total breakdown, but I think after the top 4, it's all kind of like who is the best of these remaining 8.
And I think if it gets ugly theoretically and we get blown out, we could probably fall a few spots.
Which I don't think it will, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, agreed. What I was going to go for is if we were at 5 in this situation, I would much rather play Arizona State than Iowa State. Is where I was going at.
I agree.
All right, so last one before that Big Ten game that we were talking about, we have the first of 2 top 5 matchups. Rematch of earlier this year, Georgia and Texas. This game is in Atlanta. Home game for Georgia. Not officially, but it's in Mercedes-Benz. Texas are 2.5-point favorites. Total is 49.5. This is what, like you said, they just throw those 2.5 points, the 50 totals, and just say, hey, run with it. So Georgia obviously coming off the roller coaster against Georgia Tech last week, and then Texas didn't really get their offense going, but their defense still continuing to be strong. What are we feeling here?
Chris, I'll let you go.
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I think it's obviously whatever team shows up if you're Georgia.
Fortunately for one of these teams, the game is played in Georgia.
I know. I tell you, I'm leaning Texas. I don't know. I'm leaning Texas. I think Georgia, if they show up, obviously they can beat anybody. But I'm waiting for them to, they have looked a little shaky of late. I think Texas, they've had their eye on this game for a while. They have wanted this. I think they're the better team here. At this current state, I think Georgia's ceiling maybe higher. But right now, my gut's just telling me lean Texas. Now, I don't think I'm going to really take either side because I don't feel too confident there, but that's what I'm thinking at this very moment.
Fair. Respectfully disagree. I think Georgia already went into Texas and beat them by doubling up their score,
Soundly.
30-15. Which again is not a total trouncing. They won by basically just 2 touchdowns, but I think now you're giving Georgia 2 more points, or they're giving them 2.5 to basically stay home and play a team in Texas who, again, very, very good, deserve to be number 2, but has been just kind of, we talked about earlier, they're not showing off really down the stretch. They just came off a 10-point win, obviously at A&M, so a great atmosphere, but they could have really, beat up more on Kentucky. They could have beat up more on Arkansas. Florida was the last game that they really dominated. And then we all remember back this. Now I'm just, checking out the schedule, but we're going back all the way to that Vandy game, and Vandy kept it within 3. So I just don't think Texas has showed off enough to be like, this is truly the superior team. And if we go back to that game where, again, Georgia came in to their stadium, very much the same sort of fanfare and hype going into this game too, and kind of, didn't really have an answer for them. So I will take Georgia plus any points you can give me. I also kind of like the over. For some reason, I probably won't touch the over in reality, but I think I think both defenses have a couple, total breakage and huge big plays, kind of like Georgia's been known to pull off in late game situations. And I think it'll be a battle down to the end, but I think Georgia comes out the other side.
And look at that row mismatch at the bottom there.
I did not even see that yet, but that is that's it's alarming. That's the only red spot on the page.
That's shocking.
I'm actually on the opposite side of that total. I was kind of leaning under to this game.
So we're all over the place.
Yeah, we're all over the place on this one. If I'm looking at both of these teams, I'm thinking the defenses are the stronger part of the teams in both cases. And just at that simple thought, that's why I was leaning under. The only way that I could think it being over is if Carson Beck does Carson Beck things and throws multiple picks, and just it sort of becomes like a turnover game. And the same thing could happen on the other side of the ball too for Texas. So if I'd pick a side, I like Texas, but this is a battle. I think this will be a fun one. But yeah, very, very tough to read. So I have zero clue.
This is against my own point I just made, but do you think it's a little bit of a fishy line with the game being played in Atlanta and Texas still being the favorite? Or do you think it's mainly just the, throw everything out the window because it's a top 5 game and it's a conference championship? And it's just we're not even picking a side. We're just going.
I don't know. I think we don't know what we're talking about here.
Well, obviously, again, yes.
Yeah, it should be interesting, though.
No, I can't wait. So many, again, we said it before, so many interesting, intriguing games. Just another point that the expansion worked out to their favor, exactly as they drew it up. We all care a lot more now.
I will say, I think another factor that is leading to these great games now in the conference championships are consolidation of divisions. I know, especially in the Big Ten, but even in other conferences, it's always been this way in the Big 12, but even in some of these other ones like the SEC, no East-West anymore. That's definitely playing a factor, and we wouldn't be even in the conversation if that. I guess we would be because we're in Ohio State's, but I don't know. I think that's something that's sort of going under the radar in terms of the impact.
I like that.
You know what's intriguing? I just pulled this up. If you looked at how all these conference championship matchups would be set if all the new teams weren't yet in their conference, like, for example, you take Texas out of the SEC again, it would have been Georgia, Tennessee, another very intriguing matchup. But Penn State, we'd be playing Indiana instead of Oregon if this was a year ago.
Yes, please.
I think Arizona State. I don't know if BYU was in the Big 12 last year. I think they may have been early.
They were.
Okay, so
the only new ones are. Was UCF in there last year? Or is this the first one?
I think this is the first time UCF's been there.
UCF and Cincy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were a non-factor though. But it would be
Yeah.
Clemson, Miami, which I'm sure has happened a bunch of times that we've all just kind of like glossed over. But that still would have been a crazy matchup this year around for sure.
Man, out of everyone in the Heisman race, Cam Ward has got to be so mad at his defense because they have so wholeheartedly lost him the trophy.
Well, on the one hand, yes, for sure. But on the other hand, I think I made this point like on week 6 or 7, but they were so bad that he consistently had like
That's
these
true.
late fourth quarter heroics
That's
and be
true.
like,
Blessing
oh,
and a curse.
yeah,
His
100%.
numbers are
They
inflated.
let
Yeah.
him down certainly down the stretch. If they were undefeated though, I think he has
Yeah.
a very good shot at it.
All right. Well, last one here. The big one, Big Ten conference championship, Penn State and Oregon. A little rematch of the 96 Rose Bowl, or is that 94, whatever it was. Oregon, 3.5-point favorites, total 49.5 again. This game's in Indy as always. Penn State honestly shocked to be here, I think, is the way that we're sort of feeling in terms
House
of
money.
what we're talking about. So they really have nothing to lose. Oregon, I mean, obviously they're playing for, I guess I was going to say whoever wins this game would be the 1 seed, and that's could be possible, but not sure, depending on the SEC one. But I know we have a lot of thoughts on this one where I didn't think we'd have a personal gain or a personal interest in this game if we were looking back at last week. But what do we think here? We'll start off with McCoo.
I think I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. I'm probably going to bet on Oregon, hedge my happiness. I think 3.5 is totally fair. That makes a lot of sense to me, as the graph is showing there now. Is there ever a good team with Rowe, or is everybody just in the red somewhere?
I have no idea. I don't think it's an important stat.
Again, I'm not going to base that to that, but shout out Eckel there. No, Oregon is number one for a reason. They are tremendously explosive. That Ohio State game, I think, is going to be kind of a. I don't want to give ourselves too much credit because I still think Ohio State's clearly a superior team to Penn State, but I think that will be a very close game to how it shakes out between this matchup with a couple big plays on both sides, a couple broken coverages here and there. But I think that Oregon unfortunately probably does pull it out in the end. I'd say probably by 7-10, but I could very well see this game going over. I want to say like a 35-28 kind of game or 35-31. So as painful as it is, I'm going to be totally blunt and say Oregon will probably win, probably cover, but I do very much like the over.
You gotta take, when you're hedging, you gotta take Oregon money line though, right? Because the worst thing you can do is
lose your money and lose by 3 points. Yeah,
100%.
So you gotta do that.
I was gonna say I may almost be happy with a little close loss, but no, I wouldn't do that.
No, not at all. I'd rather get blown out. We've said that all the
Honestly,
time.
I bet Ohio State minus the points and won that bet, and I was still livid more beyond my wildest dreams. So
I think I think we can keep it close. We're playing well. It all depends on which team shows up. If it's Oregon, who's gypped me a few times to start the year, they've lost a parlay for me once or twice already this year. I think I would probably lean them with the points, but like you said, we're playing with house money right now. We'll see how Penn State shows up. I think it's very important to, although a lot of times we are a second half team, this is a team with firepower that, this is not Minnesota. It goes without saying. We have to come out hot. We have to come out hot and keep it close.
I was just going to say exactly that, Chris. Very good point about the first half or second half. This may be the most lock of all locks of Oregon minus probably 2 points in the first half, or it's a close spread overall. So maybe just Oregon money line first half, because I do not think we're going to come out perfectly hot. I don't think we have prepared for this game because it kind of got dropped in our lap. Again, team's going to be good. Team's going to be competitive, but I don't really.
If Oregon gets up 2 touchdowns on us, I'll be very, very nervous. If you'll recall, last time we were in this game in 2016, we were down huge to Wisconsin. Well, that's just a totally different style of play they've got there.
100%.
I don't know. I think
wasn't it like 28-10 10
7 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some highlights going around from, obviously, we're back in the championship after 8 years or so. But it's that game was such a fever dream to me, and how perfectly it ended. I totally removed that first half from my memory.
The first half was
We were
awful.
down
You were
so
like, oh my
bad.
gosh. Yeah. No,
So-
it'll be exciting. I don't know. I'm probably going to stay away from it entirely. Obviously watch it, but yes. So yeah, should be good.
Again, like you said, it's super exciting to be in the position. I don't think anybody expected us to be here, but a lot of games this year have started very badly for us. I think we can all name, I don't know, 7 or 8 games that started not so great, and we were all like, I don't know, and we end up victorious at the end. So I'm hoping for more of the same.
Yeah, I think we have to control the ball. We have to run the ball. We've gotten too cute some drives, some games in terms of trying to throw the ball. I think I don't know. I think
I agree. I mean, yeah, our coaches need to not approach this like a huge game. They need to approach it like we've done all the other games.
we need
just
to
play
do
our game.
these. We need to do these wide receiver passes as like 2 times a game, as like a complete surprise, not like, oh, they're doing this. Let's be ready for it type deal. Just because Oregon's way too good, they're too strong up front. I think where we're gonna get them. I don't know. We've got to win the front, the battle in the trenches. I think is the main thing. That's how we win. Control the ball, keep the ball away from Dylan Gabriel as much as possible. I think is the main thing. If we win the time of possession and the turnover battle, I think we can win the game. I think if we just get one turnover and that'll turn into points, I think that's the main thing there.
I'm very nervous for Gabriel. I think we have such, and we've had this for years, but just like we're the most on brand of like the bend don't break defensive strategy, where we always just let them get like 40 yards of offense.
And that's his bread and butter. Yeah,
I was gonna say he is the most like, give me the bends and I will break you. So like he just constantly slings.
That's
like
true.
He's gonna slant route us to death, and that will be their way of success. And I can't blame them, because I think that's the right way to play us. I'm very, very, I don't even want to say I'm nervous for this game, because again, it shouldn't have even been falling in our lap. So I'm just happy that we're, the fortunes ended up in our favor. I don't have super high hopes of pulling this off. I just hope that, we keep it
pleasantly
competitive.
Surprised.
Yeah, we keep the name brand going strong, and you don't want this game to go like 42-7. Everybody's like, ooh, is Penn State even worth being around? Because that's the worst scenario.
Agreed.
100%. I am looking at something here. Let me see something. I'm looking at Havoc, thrown back to Havoc. Let's see. I'm just curious at something real quick. Okay, I was comparing our defense to Ohio State's defense in terms of Havoc, and when you were talking about Dylan Gabriel sort of sitting back there picking everyone apart for 8 yards every play, I was wondering if he's ever been rushed, like hopefully how we'll rush him in terms of just pressuring him, but our stats are very similar to Ohio State, so maybe that's what we can expect. I think to win this game, we got to score 40, I think is how it's going to go.
That's why I like the over a lot. I think I think that's the play.
All righty. Well, great episode. Thanks everybody for listening. We got a heck of a weekend of football coming up.
Honestly, with the fewer games, I didn't expect to be going quite as long, but I do. It's the conference championship.
In depth.
You got to pull out all the stops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week with some bowl content, and then Army Navy as well.
And again, yes, exactly. If you have suggestions for the bowl content, let us know. I'm super excited about that.
Are the bowls going to be identified by next week? Are we going to know who's going where?
There's some already, so I would assume
I know the playoff will be, obviously, but
some are announced already, so I'd assume by then they would be.
We'll have to do a recap of how spot on or how way off we were on our picks this week. So
yeah,
but I don't know. I'm excited. Great weekend to be alive, boys.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody, and fingers crossed for a good weekend. But no matter what, it's never a bad weekend with college football on.
Yes, sir.
I hate her.